The Haunting of Springfield's iPad Seller. Once upon a time in the quiet town of Springfield, where neighbors knew each other by name and the streets echoed with laughter, there lived a man named Homer. Homer was an average, easygoing guy with a penchant for technology. He decided to sell his old iPad on Craigslist to make some quick cash. Little did he know that this seemingly innocent transaction would plunge him into a world of terror. Homer posted his ad online, and it didn't take long before he received a response from a user named Marge. She was interested in the iPad and wanted to meet up to take a look at it. Homer agreed to meet at a local coffee shop called the Quick E-Mart, a well-lit and bustling place where he felt safe. On the agreed-upon day, Homer arrived at the Quick E-Mart and found Marge sitting at a corner table, sipping on a coffee. She was an unassuming middle-aged woman with a warm smile. They exchanged pleasantries, and Homer handed over the iPad for Marge to inspect. She seemed genuinely interested and offered him $40, which was less than he had hoped for, but he reluctantly agreed to the price. As Marge counted out the cash, Homer noticed that her eyes were fixed on the iPad screen. It was as if she was hypnotized by it. Her fingers traced the edges of the device, and her smile began to twist into an unsettling grin. Homer felt a shiver run down his spine, but he brushed it off as nerves. With the transaction completed, Marge left the Quick E-Mart with the iPad in hand. Homer sighed with relief, thinking the encounter was over. However, the strangeness was just beginning. A few days later, Homer received a text message from Marge. It read, "I can't stop using it. It's like it's calling to me." Homer was baffled by the message but dismissed it as mere enthusiasm. That was until the texts became more frequent and bizarre. Marge's messages were filled with cryptic references and strange emojis, making it impossible to decipher her intentions. One evening, Homer was at home with his children, Bart and Lisa, when the doorbell rang. He opened the door to find Marge standing there, her eyes bloodshot and her clothes disheveled. She begged him to take the iPad back, claiming it was cursed. Homer was taken aback by her desperate demeanor and decided to oblige, thinking that this would be the end of his ordeal. Homer placed the iPad on a shelf in the living room, intending to deal with it later. However, strange things began happening in his home. Lights flickered without explanation, and chilling whispers echoed through the halls at night. Bart and Lisa complained of nightmares, describing a shadowy figure that emerged from the iPad. Desperate to understand what was happening, Homer turned to his sister-in-law, Selma, who had an interest in the supernatural. Selma explained that Marge had stumbled upon an ancient and cursed app within the iPad. It was said to be a portal to a sinister dimension, and whoever possessed it would be haunted by malevolent spirits. Homer couldn't believe what he was hearing, but the evidence was undeniable. He decided to seek help from his neighbor, Meggie, who was known for her expertise in technology. Meggie examined the iPad and confirmed that it held an app unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was as if the iPad had a mind of its own, constantly drawing people into its dark world. As days turned into weeks, the supernatural occurrences escalated. Homer's family felt a sinister presence in the house, and they could no longer deny the reality of the curse. It seemed that Marge's obsession with the iPad had unleashed a vengeful force that was now tormenting them all. Determined to break the curse and save his family, Homer embarked on a quest to find Marge and discover the secrets of the cursed app. He traced her last known location to a derelict building on the outskirts of Springfield. Inside, he found Marge, her hair disheveled and her eyes vacant. Marge whispered haunting words, "It won't let me go. You must destroy it." With that, she handed Homer the iPad, and a chilling wind swept through the decrepit building. Homer fled the place, leaving behind the cursed device. Returning home, Homer knew what he had to do. He gathered his family, and together, they set out to destroy the iPad. As they approached the device, it emitted an eerie glow, and the room grew colder. Bart, Lisa, Selma, and Meggie formed a protective circle around Homer as he raised a sledgehammer high above his head. With a mighty swing, the iPad shattered into pieces, A deafening scream filled the room, and a dark shadow emerged from the broken device. The entity thrashed and wailed before dissipating into the air. The curse was finally broken. The spirits that had haunted Homer's family vanished, and peace returned to Springfield. Marge, free from the curse's grip, thanked Homer for saving her and disappeared into the night. From that day on, Homer learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of Craigslist and the supernatural. He vowed never to dabble in mysterious technology again. The town of Springfield returned to its peaceful existence, but the memory of the haunted iPad would forever linger in their minds as a cautionary tale of the horrors that could be found on the internet. The Hairdresser with the Satisfaction Guarantee. Chapter 1. The Craigslist Ad. It all began on a chilly autumn evening in New Jersey, where the streets were bathed in the dim glow of streetlights. Sarah, a young woman in her mid-20s, had been searching for a new hairdresser after relocating to the area. Her previous hairstylist had moved away, leaving her with no choice but to turn to the internet for help. Scrolling through Craigslist, Sarah stumbled upon an intriguing ad that caught her eye. The ad read, "Freddy's Haircuts and Styling. Satisfaction guaranteed. Quality hair services at affordable prices in the comfort of my New Jersey apartment. Contact me for an appointment." Intrigued by the satisfaction guarantee, Sarah decided to give it a try. She dialed the number listed in the ad and arranged an appointment with the enigmatic Freddy. The woman on the phone had a soft, soothing voice, assuring Sarah that she would leave her apartment with the perfect haircut. Chapter 2. The Appointment. A few days later, Sarah arrived at the address Freddy had provided. The building seemed unassuming, a worn-out apartment complex tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. She climbed the creaking stairs to the third floor and stood before apartment 305. As she hesitantly knocked on the door, it swung open, revealing Freddy, a middle-aged woman with a friendly smile. "Welcome, Sarah," Freddy greeted her warmly, beckoning her inside. The apartment was dimly lit, and the walls were adorned with faded posters from a bygone era. Sarah felt a bit uneasy but brushed it off, attributing it to her own nervousness. Freddy led Sarah to a makeshift salon chair in the center of the living room, covered in a plastic sheet. The room was filled with the scent of various hair products, a strange mix of chemicals and floral fragrances. Sarah settled into the chair, ready for her haircut. Chapter 3. The Haircut. Freddy began combing through Sarah's hair, chatting casually as she worked her scissors. Sarah relaxed, her initial unease dissipating. Freddy's hands moved with precision and expertise, and for a moment, Sarah believed she might have found the perfect hairdresser. As the minutes turned into hours, Freddy's conversation grew more peculiar. She spoke about her passion for hair and how it connected her to her clients on a deeper level. Sarah, trapped in the chair, began to feel uneasy once more. Freddy's eyes seemed to gleam with an unnatural intensity as she continued to snip away at Sarah's locks. Chapter 4. The Unhappy Customer. Finally, Freddy announced that she had finished the haircut, spinning the chair around to face a mirror. Sarah's heart sank as she saw her reflection. Her hair had been chopped unevenly, leaving her with a disheveled and unflattering look. She couldn't believe her eyes. This was not the promised satisfaction guarantee. Sarah mustered the courage to speak up, her voice quivering. "I'm sorry, but this is not what I asked for. I can't leave with my hair like this." Freddy's smile disappeared, replaced by an eerie calmness. "Oh, my dear, I assure you, this is the best haircut you've ever had. You just need to give it some time to grow on you." Sarah insisted that she was not happy with the haircut and requested that Freddy fix it. In response, Freddy reached into a drawer and pulled out a small canister, seemingly innocent. Chapter 5. The Pepper Spray. With a sudden, sinister twist, Freddy uncapped the canister, revealing a can of pepper spray. Panic surged through Sarah as Freddy, without warning, sprayed her in the face with the burning liquid. Sarah screamed in agony, her eyes stinging, unable to see or breathe properly. Gasping for air and struggling to regain her vision, Sarah managed to stumble towards the apartment's door, desperately trying to escape. Freddy, her once friendly demeanor completely gone, followed her, blocking her path. "You should have been satisfied," Freddy hissed, her voice now dripping with malice. "Now you'll understand the consequences of questioning my work." Chapter 6. The Escape. Summoning all her strength, Sarah fought through the pain and fear, shoving Freddy aside and darting out of the apartment. She descended the stairs blindly, tears streaming down her face, and burst out into the cool night air. Her vision slowly began to return as she stumbled away from the building. Gasping for breath, Sarah managed to find a nearby gas station, where the kind attendant called the police and provided her with water to rinse her burning eyes. When the officers arrived, Sarah told them everything, from her Craigslist search to her horrifying encounter with Freddy. Chapter 7. The Investigation. The police wasted no time in launching an investigation into the mysterious Freddy and her Craigslist hairdressing services. They discovered that the name Freddy was a pseudonym, and her true identity remained elusive. However, her apartment provided a treasure trove of evidence, including a list of names of previous clients. One by one, the police contacted these clients and discovered disturbing tales of dissatisfaction and fear. Some had even been subjected to the same pepper spray ordeal. It became clear that Freddy was not just a hairdresser, but a predator hiding behind the guise of a stylist. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. As the investigation continued, the police finally managed to track down the real identity of Freddy, whose legal name was Margaret Turner. She had a long history of mental health issues and a criminal record for assault. The authorities arrested Margaret and charged her with multiple counts of assault and endangerment. The trial that followed revealed a disturbed mind obsessed with hair and an obsession with ensuring her clients' satisfaction through fear and intimidation. Chapter 9. The Aftermath. Margaret Turner was ultimately sentenced to a psychiatric institution where she would receive the treatment she so desperately needed. Her apartment was sealed off, and her Craigslist ad was taken down. The incident sent shockwaves through the community, serving as a chilling reminder that danger could lurk even in the most unexpected places. Sarah, scared by her traumatic experience, finally found a trustworthy hairdresser and began to rebuild her life. The events of that fateful evening remained etched in her memory, a cautionary tale she would never forget. In the end, the story of the hairdresser with the satisfaction guarantee served as a grim reminder that sometimes the most terrifying nightmares can be found in the most ordinary of settings, lurking just beneath the surface of everyday life. The Gerbil Gladiators of Springfield. Part 1. The Mysterious Craigslist Ad. It was a gloomy evening in the quiet town of Springfield. Marge Simpson sat in her cozy living room, scrolling through Craigslist on her laptop. She had always been fascinated by the strange and unusual ads that occasionally popped up on the website. Tonight, she was in for something beyond her wildest imagination. As she browsed through the listings, a peculiar ad caught her attention. The title read, "Rare Gerbil Gladiators for Sale. One night only." The ad featured a dimly lit image of a small cage with tiny, ferocious-looking gerbils inside. The seller's name was Homer, and his contact number was provided. Marge couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Who in their right mind would sell gerbils as gladiators? Part 2. Marge's Curiosity. Marge decided to call Homer out of sheer curiosity. She dialed the number and waited anxiously as the phone rang. After a few rings, a gruff voice answered. "Hello." "Hi there," Marge replied cautiously. "I saw your ad about the Gerbil Gladiators. Is it for real?" Homer let out a deep, throaty laugh. "Oh, it's real, all right. You won't believe what these little critters can do." Interested in witnessing their power, Marge hesitated for a moment, but ultimately agreed to meet Homer to see these so-called Gerbil Gladiators. They arranged to meet at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town later that evening. Part 3. The Abandoned Warehouse. As Marge arrived at the eerie, dilapidated warehouse, she couldn't help but feel a shiver run down her spine. The place was shrouded in darkness, and the only sound that broke the silence was the occasional rustling of leaves. She parked her car and cautiously stepped inside. In the dimly lit interior, she saw a group of people huddled around a cage. Homer was there, along with a few others. Bart, a local troublemaker, was among the onlookers, wearing a sly grin on his face. Lisa, the town's brainiac, was scribbling notes in her notebook, clearly intrigued by the bizarre spectacle. Marge approached the cage and peered inside. What she saw sent a chill down her spine. The gerbils, instead of being small and harmless, were unusually large and fierce-looking. Their eyes gleamed with an eerie red light, and their teeth were razor-sharp. Part 4. The Unholy Spectacle. Homer leaned in close and whispered to Marge, "These gerbils have been trained to fight to the death. They're the toughest little creatures you'll ever see." As if on cue, he opened the cage, and the gerbils sprang into action. The tiny gladiators began to battle ferociously, their tiny claws and teeth clashing in a gruesome spectacle. The onlookers watched in horrified fascination as the gerbils tore into each other with savage intensity. Marge couldn't believe her eyes. She was torn between wanting to stop this cruelty and being morbidly fascinated by the surreal spectacle unfolding before her. The eerie red glow in the gerbils' eyes seemed to intensify with each passing moment. Part 5. Marge's Dilemma. As the gerbil battle raged on, Marge's conscience got the better of her. She couldn't stand to watch these innocent creatures fight to the death. She turned to Homer and demanded, "This is inhumane. You have to stop this madness." Homer chuckled, a sinister edge to his voice. "Oh, you don't understand, Marge. These gerbils are more than they seem. They're not just fighters. There's something much darker." Before Marge could comprehend his words, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. The warehouse shook as if an earthquake had struck. Panicked cries filled the air as the onlookers stumbled and fell. Marge clung to a nearby support beam, her heart pounding in her chest. Part 6. Unleashing the Horror. As the tremors subsided, the lights flickered and then died completely, plunging the warehouse into pitch-black darkness. Marge could hear the terrified voices of the people around her, but she couldn't see a thing. Something sinister was happening, something beyond her worst nightmares. Suddenly, a blood-curdling screech echoed through the darkness. It was a sound of pure agony and terror. The eerie red glow from the gerbil's eyes returned, casting an eerie crimson hue on the surroundings. In the midst of the chaos, Marge could make out the figure of Meggie, Homer's sister, desperately trying to escape. She was being pursued by a shadowy, grotesque creature that seemed to be made entirely of darkness and malice. Its eyes burned with the same red glow as the gerbils. Part 7. The Haunting Escape. Marge knew she had to find a way out of this nightmare. She fumbled for her phone and turned on the flashlight, casting a feeble beam of light into the darkness. It was then that she saw Selma, a terrified bystander, being dragged away by one of the monstrous gerbils. With her heart pounding, Marge followed the chilling sounds of struggle, determined to rescue Selma. As she reached the scene, she gasped in horror. The gerbil had transformed into a grotesque, humanoid creature with elongated limbs and sharp claws. It was like a nightmare come to life. Desperation fueled Marge's actions as she swung a nearby metal pipe at the creature. It let out an unearthly shriek before dissipating into a cloud of dark mist, leaving Selma trembling but unharmed. Part 8. The Revelation. Marge and Selma reunited with the remaining survivors and managed to make their way toward the exit. The warehouse continued to tremble, and the eerie red glow persisted, casting an unsettling atmosphere over the place. Finally, they emerged into the cool night air, gasping for breath and covered in sweat. The warehouse itself seemed to writhe and groan before collapsing in on itself in a cloud of dust and debris. Homer, who had been mysteriously absent during the chaos, suddenly appeared. He looked shaken and remorseful. "I didn't know this would happen," he muttered. I never should have messed with those gerbils. Part 9. The Aftermath. In the days that followed, the town of Springfield was forever changed. The bizarre incident in the abandoned warehouse became an urban legend, with whispers of Gerbil gladiators and dark, otherworldly forces haunting the town. Marge, haunted by the horrors she had witnessed, couldn't shake the feeling that the supernatural had been unleashed that fateful night. Bart, Lisa, Meggie, and Selma were forever scared by the experience, their lives irrevocably altered. As for Homer, he disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and eerie speculations. The truth of what had happened that night in the abandoned warehouse remained a mystery, buried in the dark depths of Springfield's history. And so, the town of Springfield became a place where the line between reality and the supernatural was forever blurred, a place where the Gerbil gladiators and the horrors they unleash would never be forgotten. The end. The Craigslist Stranger. Part 1. A Strange Connection. In the quiet town of Cedar Hollow, nestled deep within the heart of the forest, lived a Reddit user named Vincent Bede, known online as Ven Bede. He was an ordinary guy, fond of browsing Craigslist for deals and oddities. One day, he decided to sell his juicer, posting it on the website. Little did he know that this simple act would unravel a chilling series of events. The first contact came in the form of a message from a user named Lonely Joker. He expressed interest in the juicer and requested Ven Bede to deliver it to his house. Vincent agreed, thinking it would be a quick and straightforward transaction. Lonely Joker shared his address, and they set up a meeting for the following evening. Part 2. The Unsettling Encounter. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ven Bede found himself driving down a winding road that led to Lonely Joker's house. The location was isolated, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets in the gentle breeze. He parked his car in front of the dimly lit house and approached the door with the juicer in hand. A shiver ran down Ven Bede's spine as he knocked on the door. Moments later, it creaked open, revealing a man in his 40s with disheveled hair and an eerie grin. This man, whose real name Ven Bede never learned, introduced himself as Mark. He took the juicer with an unsettling eagerness. Mark insisted that Ven Bede stay for a drink, an offer he politely declined. As he walked back to his car, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about Mark and his isolated house deep within the woods. Part 3. The Craigslist Connection. The following day, Ven Bede resumed his usual Craigslist browsing, hoping to find a desk to replace the one he'd recently sold. To his surprise, he stumbled upon an ad that seemed to be from Mark. It was for the very desk he needed. Intrigued, he decided to message the seller. Mark responded almost immediately, offering the desk at a reasonable price. It struck Ven Bede as peculiar that Mark had what he needed so soon after their previous encounter. Nevertheless, he agreed to purchase the desk and arranged to meet Mark at his house once again. Part 4. A Stranger's Obsession. Upon arriving at Mark's secluded home for the second time, Ven Bede couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. Mark greeted him with that same eerie grin and led him to the desk. They exchanged pleasantries, but Mark's conversation began to take a strange turn. Mark spoke about how he admired Ven Bede's taste in appliances, mentioning the juicer he'd bought the previous day. Ven Bede felt a chill run down his spine as he realized that Mark was keeping tabs on him. Mark seemed overly interested in Ven Bede's life, and even brought up the fact that they lived in the same town, insinuating that they should become friends. Part 5. A Web of Deception. Over the next few days, Ven Bede couldn't shake the feeling that Mark was stalking him online. Every time he posted an ad on Craigslist, Mark would respond almost immediately, offering items that seemed eerily tailored to Ven Bede's interests and needs. It was as though Mark was watching his every move on the internet. The situation escalated when Ven Bede found an ad for a set of custom rims for his exact car make and model. The timing was too perfect, and the realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. Mark was deliberately posting ads to lure Venbade back to his house, to hang out, as he had mentioned earlier. Part 6. The Sinister Invitation. Fearing for his safety, Venbade decided to confront Mark about his unsettling behavior. He messaged Mark, asking him to stop posting ads tailored to him, and to leave him alone. Mark responded with a message that sent shivers down Venbade's spine. "You can't escape our connection, Venbade. I just want to be friends." Venbade's heart raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. Mark's obsession with him had crossed a dangerous threshold, and he knew he had to take action before things spiraled further out of control. Part 7. A Desperate Escape. Venbade contacted the local authorities, explaining the strange and unsettling events that had transpired. They advised him to stay away from Mark's house and promised to investigate the matter. Meanwhile, Venbade packed his belongings and decided to stay with a friend in a neighboring town until the situation was resolved. As he drove away from Cedar Hollow, he couldn't help but glance in his rearview mirror, wondering if Mark was watching him from the shadows of the forest. The sinister connection forged through Craigslist had left him scared, and the chilling thought of what might have happened had he accepted Mark's invitations haunted his every step. Part 8. The Haunting Aftermath. Weeks turned into months, and the investigation into Mark's activities continued. Venbade never returned to Cedar Hollow, his life forever changed by the terrifying experience. Mark's online presence mysteriously vanished, leaving behind a chilling void. The town of Cedar Hollow remained shrouded in an eerie silence, and the forest whispered secrets that would never be uncovered. Craigslist, once a platform for finding deals and oddities, had become a source of fear for Venbade, a reminder that sometimes the online world could lead to chilling real-life encounters. The sinister tale of the Craigslist Stranger served as a warning to all who ventured into the digital realm, a reminder that behind the screen, there could be darkness lurking, waiting to ensnare the unsuspecting in its web of obsession and fear.